haven't seen the checker flag in a while. We really need to see the checker flag. And Emma might be gaining on us, so we just have to wait and see what happens when the checker flag comes down.
Michael's been racing well. Is his confidence still up?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see to see what happens after this race.
Okay, Sandy, thank you. Back upstairs to you.
Well, she mentioned that Emerson Fittipaldi may be moving in. Out of the race goes John Jones, so the last Canadian is out. Scott Goodyear was running in the top 10, ran out of fuel. Ludwig Heimrath had mechanical problems. Now Jones is gone. All Canadians out. She mentioned Fittipaldi. He is car 20. He is now, well, he was down to about 4.1 seconds. He's now nearly up to 5 seconds. There is your leader, Andretti. Mears is not a factor. And there is Emerson Fittipaldi, who is running second.
Seems like on that stretch, the interval closed quite a bit. It's being displayed up at the start-finish line as just a tick under 5 seconds. But Fittipaldi is very definitely on the fly, trying to catch Michael Andretti. Sandy Andretti is unlike many of the drivers' wives. Many of the drivers' wives have met the drivers after their racing career began and are caught up in the sport. Sandy Andretti is Michael's childhood sweetheart. She knew him long before he ever started racing cars. They went to grade school together and high school together. She's not a great fan of racing. She comes to the track to be with her husband, but she doesn't really like to see him going 170 miles an hour.
Of course, what that does, as our leader now going up to well over 170 miles an hour on the straightaway, what that does probably is keep things into perspective for Michael.
It certainly keeps him in balance, though he is a man who understands exactly who he is. The Andrettis are very good at self-analysis. I had mentioned earlier how good Mario is at understanding his position on the racetrack at any time. That applies to their lives. They're very organized thinkers. He knows who he is. He's not taken with who he is. He's been in a great racing family all of his life. So there's not a star factor that's affecting Michael. He's a very even-tempered, even-going fella. In fact, last week at the Meadowlands, one of the drivers, in fact, Mario, his father, had some fancy luxury car there. Michael drove up to the track in a pickup truck.
Well, Michael and Mario, I believe, both driving Hondas today. You see them parked out back with their names on them. Michael even up at a Kmart store in my area signing autographs earlier this week. Michael, of course, sponsored. Newman Haas is sponsored by Kmart. Now down into the straightaway. Michael Andretti, the lead is now under 4 seconds. There is our leader, Michael Andretti. The lead is less than 4 seconds over Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi there, he's just come into your screen.
Just under 5 laps to go now, and Fittipaldi definitely has the scent. He has Michael visually in front of him, and that gives him a little greater impetus to try and catch that car. Fittipaldi now can measure what is happening. Before, he can't see the leader in front of him, and so he's just driving quickly. Now he has a target. He has something in his sights ahead, and that's really going to help him catch.
There's Danny Sullivan. He's third, but he is not a factor. Here's the story. There's Andretti. Slower car. Andretti with a slower car between himself and Emerson Fittipaldi. The lead is less than 4 seconds to go.
We are going to have a great race here because Fittipaldi is going to drive now in these last few laps. We're now with 98 laps complete for all he is worth to try and catch Michael. Here's the worst thing that can happen to Michael, to encounter slower traffic ahead that may not recognize that Michael is there. If they slow him up even a couple of tenths, that goes to Fittipaldi's advantage. Fittipaldi is very good at working his way through traffic.
All right, out of the straight, there is Michael Andretti. Ignore the other car, car 10 Daly. Ignore 59 Sealing. There is Fittipaldi.
All right, let's see how good Fittipaldi handles the traffic that's in front of him as they come through what is ordinarily a section of the course that you wouldn't attempt to pass. Fittipaldi, if he's going to be bright, would simply pull up behind those cars and wait until there's a clear section. But he's a little more desperate than that, Val. Let's see what the tactic of the two-time world champion is.
We are heading for a big, big finish. There's Danny Sullivan. He is third, but he is not a factor. The story right now is Michael Andretti, as he is pursued by Emerson Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti, car number 6, trying to win for the first time in 1989. Emerson Fittipaldi has won 4 of the last 6 races.
And the interval closed.
Yeah,
interval closed now to 2.5
seconds.
3 laps to go, 2.5 seconds of separation. There's Fittipaldi. He got through the slower cars on that back section. That by itself is a tremendous feat of driving. And now he is pursuing Michael Andretti, and he is closing on him. Michael has the slower car, the Porsche of Teo Fabi just ahead.
Now, Teo Fabi is running 4th. They're about to lap Fabi. That means only 3 cars, Andretti, Fittipaldi, and Sullivan, are on the same lap. There is Emerson Fittipaldi. He was second 1 week ago in New Jersey. Will he be able to reel in Michael Andretti? Teo Fabi is running fourth. Andretti not able to get past Fabi. Now makes his move on Fabi. There's Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi now coming around behind Fabi. Fittipaldi goes by Fabi.
What a great move by Teo Fabi. Fabi moved out of the way of both of those cars and really took a chance when he moved out of the way when Fittipaldi came through. He really helped the leaders out, and he helped make a great race to the finish.
Into turn number 1. Emerson Fittipaldi is all over Michael Andretti. Watch this PC-18 Chevrolet of Emerson Fittipaldi on the straightaway make its move on number 6. Michael Andretti, the race leader, now by a second over Emerson Fittipaldi. Emerson Fittipaldi, no! Yes,
and they bumped
into the wall. And
but Fittipaldi's still running. He's going to try to get that car back into the run.
Oh my, Emerson Fittipaldi, who bumped with Al Unser Jr., but continued on to win the Indy 500, tries to make a move on Michael Andretti. At that slow right hairpin turn number 3, he bumped. Andretti now has a big lead and should be able to coast home. Michael Andretti now with a wide lead over Emerson Fittipaldi. There's our leader, the Newman Haas, car number 6 of Michael Andretti. Andretti leading every race with the exception of Portland.
Well, the question is going to be damage as Michael Andretti takes the white flag with 1 more lap to go. Fittipaldi is running visibly slower. That was a pretty good impact. There's nothing obviously wrong with Michael's car. The question will be in this final lap, and surely it's going through Michael's mind because he can't see all of the car from the cockpit. Boy, is there anything on this thing that is damaged that's going to keep me from finishing this one?
This has been a day to remember here in Toronto. Let's take a look at it again. Fittipaldi tries to go to the right. Michael moves over, puts him into the wall.
Well, Andretti, I think, started the turn in just a little bit early. He certainly was aware that Fittipaldi was there, and I think he was just trying to get the door shut on him, but Fittipaldi was almost totally alongside. The rule in racing, though unwritten, is the race course belongs to the leader.
Well, here is our leader. He is just seconds away from winning for the first time in Toronto and the first time in 1989. Michael Andretti in the number 6 Newman Haas. And this big crowd of over 60,000 comes alive on the Toronto waterfront as it is official. Michael Andretti is the winner of the 1989 Molson Indy, surviving that shunt with Emerson Fittipaldi down on turn number 3. A very happy Andretti family. There's Emerson Fittipaldi. He will finish second. Danny Sullivan will be third. Teo Fabi in the Porsche will finish fourth. Rick Mears should be fifth, followed by Scott Pruitt, Raul Bussell, Fabrizio Barbazza, Kevin Cogan, and Dominic Dobson rounding out the top 10. The 3 Canadians not finishing here today. Michael Andretti winning for the first time this year. Won 4 races back in 1987 at Michigan, Pennsylvania, Milwaukee, and Miami.
Well, I think you're going to hear a lot of conversation about that next to last lap. They'll look at those tapes 200 or 300 times and trying to decide whether there is any fault in it. But, you know, once again, you're talking the end of a race. You're talking the penultimate lap. Now, at that point, both drivers go just as hard as they can. Fittipaldi tried to place his car down to the inside of Michael. Michael had the opportunity to turn in for the corner. In reality, the only 2 who know the truth of that particular situation are the 2 involved, because our lenses will foreshorten that distance, and you never can really judge from the photograph. You're going to have to ask the drivers.
Can you remember, and you have covered this circuit probably more than anyone here in attendance today. We take a look at the shot again. Let's see if we can find out if indeed Michael was pulling off to the left of the screen a little early.
Well, you can see the lines on the course start to bend over. Michael turned over quite a bit. I don't